So let me show you a way to avoid these lineups. What we really need is like a larger sample, like coming across. Let me turn off all this stuff, all of this stuff. Made a mess here. Well, right now what we have for our sample, if we remember, is essentially from something like here to here, and this makes the pattern. What we really need is something from like here to here, so that we can wiggle everything around on the inside or change some colors just so it's harder to spot the pattern going on. So I'm going to come back to the original and check what the size was by going to image size. See, it used to be 4 inches wide, 4 inches tall, 300 pixels per inch. So I'm going to make a new document, even bigger. Oops, but I'll set this to inches. So let's say it's 3 times the size, 12 inches by 12 inches at 300 pixels per inch. Now let's make a new layer and fill that. Edit, fill with our beautiful pattern, which I believe was this one. Yeah, I think it's that one. And tell it okay. So we've got these great snails now, and look, it's about the sample that I had mapped out originally. And now we're going to wiggle stuff around. And we're going to have to be a little bit careful about that. Oops, got a little bit here. I should be using my Cintiq. It would be a lot faster. Shift, Alt, Shift. All right. Okay. Control X, Control V. Now it's on its own layer. I'm just going to wiggle it a little bit. And let's do the same for like this one. Z for zoom, L for lasso, subtract that out, Shift to add that on, Alt to subtract out. Man, I keep missing. There we go. And Control, oops, got to do it on the right layer. Control X, Control V. So here's the other one. We don't want it to line up. So I'm going to drop him down a bit. Okay. So let's do something else. Maybe on this one, we'll cut him, paste him back, and flip him around. Which kind of ruins the lighting, but hey. And we'll wiggle this guy up. And wiggle that guy down. Wiggle him over. Flip this one. Wiggle him a little bit. Now, I'm okay with all of this. And let me flatten these down a little bit. Because I know that the fill that we did was the exact size, an exact size by 300 pixels larger than the previous one. So if I were to go to filter, offset, other offset, when I move this around, however I slide it around, I won't see any kind of weird seams or anything. See, and that's just because this is completely divisible by 300 pixels. We just increased it by like 12 or whatever. I'm going to cancel that. So that means that I don't have to worry about the edges. I can just grab whatever I want and wiggle things around. And if I want to deal with the edges, I just use the offset to slide everything over a little bit. And then I just affect stuff in the middle. So watch, filter, other, offset. Start at 0. Hate those crazy huge numbers. And we'll just knock this down a little bit. We'll be able to get to these green snails now. Carefully. Just kind of bounce them over. A little more arrow keys to nudge. Still want some level of separation. So you can see I can keep working on this. I could keep wiggling things around a little bit at a time so that things aren't quite perfectly lined up like they were before. Now this won't completely solve the lineup because the objects themselves will be lining up, but it will break that fact up. So in fact, let me pause the video and wiggle everything a little bit more so you get an idea of where it's going. Be back in just a minute. Okay, I've wiggled a few around and I've changed some sizes and let me change a quick rotation too. That's one thing I forgot. Maybe on this one, just a slight wiggle to it. Basically, the less in common something has, the harder it will be for us to find the repeat in the pattern with our human eyes. Just grab this and make sure I don't get that. Okay, looks good. V, T, hey, T, Control T to, so I just did a Control X to cut, Control V to paste, Control T to transform, and I'll just wiggle that one a little bit. Okay, so let me merge that down. I will just go to, oh, wait, get rid of that background. Edit, define pattern. Snails, lots of snails. Now we'll come back to this little area we keep working in, and I will do another fill with a pattern. I'm going to scale this thing down quite a bit. I want it to be about the same size as the other one. So it looks like about 60%. Okay, so I'm going to make a new layer, fill it with white. White, I say, merge down. All right, so before, here's what we had, and after. It's a little harder to tell where the repeat is occurring, simply because things are jostled about a bit. Notice some of the snails are flipped the other direction, that kind of thing. So that's pretty useful. And those kinds of tricks can make a pattern change from looking like an easy to spot pattern to a little more difficult pattern. So in this case, we defined the minimum amount and it repeated again. Here we have a larger pattern mixed in, so we're barely even seeing it repeat at all. And that means that we don't have to worry as much about finding the repetition. All right, so that essentially is one way to deal with the lineups. Not necessarily a way to deal with the banding effect. When that comes up, we'll deal with that. Smaller textured items tend to have that appear. Okay, well, that's the tool that we need to essentially define patterns. So let's go ahead and just build a bunch of different patterns that will work in our upcoming assignment. That way you'll know different ways to do it, and then you'll be able to do it yourself. Now, heads up on that, these patterns take a while to make, and that means that you need to leave enough time for it. I believe this time I'm requesting 9 patterns. So if it ends up taking you an hour to make a pattern, It's going to take you 9 hours to do this assignment. It can be a pretty big one, so just a heads up on that. But let's get into a few different ways that we can make patterns. I'll see you in the next video.